I was born in Philadelphia, where I think my dad was attending Westminster. And but I've been in Canada mostly and Ontario actually mostly until the last 15 years. So I moved out here to BC 15 years ago. And we moved out here for the purpose of kind of just a little bit of a change of scenery, but also for me to start a new program for cello. And that turned out to be the master's program at UBC. And so that was 15 years ago, and we were attending a few different churches. We went to Fleetwood for a while, and then I think we've been at Hope now for about 10 years, something like that. So we were just looking for a different, how do I say that? Like we were just looking for a different community, just kind of trying to figure out how we could fit in, and both where we could kind of use our gifts, but also just where we felt like it was home. And I think it was actually Milana who just looked up. She just Googled like churches in Surrey or something, CRC churches in Surrey, and it was just on a little bit of a like we were just feeling a little bit unsettled, and we really wanted to find a place where we really felt like we belonged. And so after looking up, I think just a few different ones, we clicked on something about hope. And this is back when we were still meeting in Latimer Elementary. And she just listed off a few names, including the Vocanons, who else? Ackermans, Gerbers. There were a few people who was like, bam, bam, bam. Oh, wow, we should actually check this church out. Like, those are great people. We should just go see what it's all about. And like, I think this is a story with actually a lot of people who've kind of ended up at Hope. The first Sunday there, we really, really felt like we were at home right away. I think we got invited to like 3 or 4 people's houses for dinner or for coffee and tea or whatever. And so it was it was right away. It really felt like just such a nice community, such a really wholesome community. So and at that point, I think we were just really ready for that move, and just starting our family. I think Phoebe was like almost 1 year old or something, and so it was just the perfect timing for us. So that's how we ended up at Hope. We've been there for just over a decade now. We love it. We love all the people and like all the changes that have come up, like along the way. I guess all the changes that have happened along the way have been all just so awesome for us. Like, getting this new building, Dave having you come in as and also as a pastor is awesome. And right from the beginning, Sid, we've just really loved your preaching and your teaching, and and just having all the relationships with all the people in the community. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at, or how we sort of ended up, I hope.
Thanks, Ben. I wasn't expecting you to say so much about our church, but we're very grateful for that. Tell us about what made you want to become a cellist.
Do you have like a timeline thing? Like, or
no.
like
I'll make some kind of beeping noise if you go too long on our church. Go ahead. What made you want to become a cellist?
Oh, that's fine. Okay. Sorry, I'm just asking if she can be right here next to me, or is that making me uncomfortable?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what did I? Okay. So actually, it's kind of a dumb answer, but for me, and please no one take offense, but I saw the cello as a boy instrument and the violin as a girl instrument. And that's just because my 3 sisters all played violin. So they all played before I started. And then I think my mom actually suggested the cello to me, but not in a pushy sort of way, just in a, hey, did you ever think about it sort of way. And so it just made sense, because right away I was like, oh yeah, sure. So girls play the violin, boys play the cello. Got it. Yeah, I'll do that. So that was the first thing. And since then I've met, many wonderful female cellists and male violinists. So my perspective has changed a little bit. But so that's how I started playing the cello, and it was with my sisters mostly, just in our quartet. We did a lot of playing together, a lot of performing, a lot of weddings in the younger days, and those are some of the really fun times for me of growing up. We're playing music. So yeah, that's why I started playing the cello. Yeah. Was there more to that?
Well, how about I tease this out? I have heard people say things about most instruments where at some point a parent will say to a child, okay, this is a hobby, but it's not a career. So talk about the journey of saying, I want to be a cellist, as that's going to be my vocation.
Yeah. Okay. So I think actually largely this has to do with like my parents and their view on work, and just career being oriented in terms of um, your job is not necessarily just to make money, and that growing up money was not it was almost a non-issue, so we just never really talked about it. That doesn't mean that it was something that was always just like flowing in, so we had no problems, or vice versa. It was just a matter of we have what we need, so we can kind of keep going with what we're doing. And in terms of finding kind of what we want to do in life, so call it a career, a vocation, that was something that my parents, specifically my dad, but both my parents would they just encouraged us to do what we were gifted at. So in a way, did I just end that with a preposition? I did. Sorry, no offense to anyone out there. Jenny Vanderbeek, no, no. Anyway,
Be
so yeah,
quiet, it works.
yeah, because I put a semicolon after it, right? You heard that. Anyway, so yeah, I think because there wasn't the pressure of your job has to be well paying, or there was never really that sort of an idea that was pushed onto me when I was thinking about what I wanted to do. Is more, what has God gifted you to do? What do you enjoy doing? What do you want to do with your life? What do you think you can share with other people? And in the end, it was like, yeah, music. What music? That's what I love. That's what I love the most. So why not, right? And so then, and it's kind of a little bit maybe backwards way of looking at it, but you see what you like, and then see if there's a way that you can find or make work out of it. So that's, if that makes sense, that's kind of how I viewed it. And so for me, yeah, it's a hobby, but it's also what I make money doing, so it is my career as well. And it's, I've never really felt like I don't make enough to make it called a career, because it is. So yeah.
Ben, what are some of the things you love the most about your job? And what would you say are some of the most difficult parts of being a cellist?
um I love, I guess, yeah, as a musician, you always have your fingers in a lot of different pots. So there's like different parts to my job, of course. I do a lot of teaching throughout the week. And for me, I love the sort of camaraderie that you build up with students. And I love the social interaction of that and seeing them on a weekly basis, and kind of getting to know them really well. And I like the students too who are a little bit more tricky to kind of figure out, and it takes a little bit longer. They're more like puzzles, and they don't quite understand something, so I have to come up with a metaphor that they'll understand. And then if they don't understand that, then it's kind of, for me, it's a little bit of a fun little challenge. Like, okay, well, maybe let's try it this way, or let's do this, or so. I get energized by that. Um, so I love that part of it, the interpersonal sort of aspect of it. Um, I think just in terms of being a performer, I love making beautiful things, I guess you could say. So like I love creating, and I love like, yeah, just creating beauty when I can and where I can. And I think in performing, I can do that sometimes, sometimes more than others. And so that for me, that's just always very fulfilling, and just for the sake of making beautiful sounds, right? That kind of thing. And part of the performing is actually, I like, this, but so I do a lot of kind of house concerts and things where I'm in charge of putting on the program. So I have to come up with the list of repertoire that we're going to play and how we tie things together. And for me, that's a very, like, that's a creative outlet that I love. I spend way too much time on it, but I think it's something that is life giving for me, right? Just to be able to kind of like feel like, try to come up with something that people will be able to relate to, and then also try to get people to maybe hear something that they haven't heard before, but then always balance that out with something that they might have heard before. So it's again, it's a little bit of a game. Like it's a fun game for me to try to find a way to make music accessible to everyone. So, and then I guess the other one job that I would say I do, even though performing right now is obviously off the table, but and so is this next one. But I conduct the Surrey Youth Orchestra, one of the orchestras with there. So it's really, like, for me, that's a lot of fun. For me, that's, I just kind of go in, do my thing, I get to see all these kids who are awesome, and maybe some who are not so awesome. And again, just working with like personalities and just trying to figure out how to kind of like keep everyone in line and keep everyone entertained, because over there, that's what they that's what they need. They need a joke every once in a while. And then those people, they need more serious. So they need to be more kind of, let's get with the program. So just that kind of making sure that I'm able to read the crowd sort of thing, I guess. It's not really a crowd when it's your students, but that sort of a thing. Um, and of course, in that, there's also the creative element of coming up with a program to present at the final concerts, year end stuff. So for me, it's a lot of it is the process that I love, and then of course the final product, which is just trying to create something that's beautiful. Um, so yeah, and then you asked about too what like the hardest parts.
Mm-hmm.
I would say probably the like for me personally, I'm never because of my upbringing of not being like overly concerned about money. I'm not usually too concerned about it. So if, for example, we're kind of going, like gig to gig or something in a low season, for example, like if there's, I would say, like January is always a little bit of a lower season for performing. So if there's that, like, yeah, it could give a little stress, but I don't think I think I've sort of learned to let that stress go, so I don't really worry about that too much. But I remember like that would have been a little bit of a stress at first. Um, and then I think one of the other big ones would be balancing out kind of like family time and downtime with everything else that's going on, because it's kind of like when you work at home and you have to do you're just always responding to different communications, right? So you're always kind of planning for the next event, and planning always takes a lot longer than you expect, and then you have people drop out, or you have different things, kind of little hurdles that come along the way all the time that are unexpected. And while that might be really fun to deal with, and it might actually be exhilarating, right, as well as maybe exhausting, at the end of the day, you have to kind of balance out how much time you can actually allot to that, and then how much time you actually have left over for everything else that's also very important in your life. So finding that balance is I think always tricky. So when there's less work to be had, you spend more time with family and doing other things, but then you're not making as much. And then when it's like, wow, like 4 or 5 concerts a weekend, it's awesome, it's great. But then there's that, okay, well, now I have to balance out my life because this is just ridiculous. So it's not always the same. It's not a 9 to 5. So that's kind of a big part of it too. Just it's always changing. So that finding a new balance almost on a weekly basis is a little bit what it's about.
Mm.
So.
I mean, you already touched on this a little bit, but talk about the way that this pandemic and COVID-19 has affected your work.
Yeah, well, I think I'm very fortunate. I should say we are very fortunate. Yes, there's Maya. We're very fortunate in that we've built up a studio, um, because with the way that this has gone out, we haven't, like, all of my concerts and stuff have been canceled, and of course that's the case for a lot of people. But I know musicians are pretty hard hit just because there's not really an end in sight yet. And all these things, you just you're planning for it, so you're canceling other things to do these, and then all of a sudden those aren't happening. And so at first it was like a little bit of a punch in the stomach, right? It was like, oh, okay, that gig's gonna be canceled. Oh, that concert. Oh, and I was really looking forward to that concert, and that's gonna be canceled. And I see that Heather Dick is on here. So, and then there's a concert with Calvin, and I was really excited about that one, but then that's canceled. So like just that kind of thing. It's like yeah, it's a little bit heartbreaking. But at the same time, this is where I'm saying it's, we're blessed that we have the music studio as well, right? So a lot of performers just perform, and for them, yeah, they wouldn't really have very much to fall back on, right? So for us, we have the studio, and that of course presented its own set of challenges with going online, and all of a sudden having to learn a whole new language of how to do this, kind of do it face to, or laptop to laptop sort of thing. So that was tricky to handle and to maneuver a little bit, for sure. But it's changed a lot of the way that we do what we're doing, but it's not all negative. I don't think. Like a lot of people, I know a lot of musicians who really complain about it, and like, oh, I hate teaching online. Blah, blah, blah. I love it actually. I find it to be like, I'm finding like a lot of my students are progressing just as much, if and I don't I have to be careful because I don't know if it's more or if it's just my expectation that it wasn't going to be quite as good, but progressing just as much, right? And so seeing that progression week to week and being able to see the students kind of like improving and still responding really well, and it's very encouraging to have that. So that part of it, which maybe some people might think of as negative, it's actually turned into a pretty positive thing. And in light of the whole performances being canceled, that's been a little bit of a lifeline actually, having the studio. So um, so yeah, and it's also kind of it's provided like some time and space too for us to do more family things. I mean, as everyone I'm sure is kind of experiencing to some degree. We're able to, if a student is calls up the last second and has to cancel, I can go outside and hang out with the kids or play tennis in the cul-de-sac, or just go upstairs and help out with something. We have downtime a little bit more than before. So there's always going to be silver lining to everything, right? So yeah, yeah. So that those are some of the ways that it's been changed for me. I'm not. It's provided some new opportunities too. Am I kind of jumping the gun on any questions if I say
No,
that?
you just talk. Go ahead, Ben.
Okay, so I was gonna say, like, just in terms of how musicians have sort of been reacting to the whole COVID thing. There's I'm sure a lot of you have seen these sort of like collage videos, which I I really want to call them. They're called, I kind of call them isolation. Oh, Val, you'll like this because you were saying that we should have a name for them, right? They're what they are is isolation collaboration videos. So they're like ISO COVIDs, right? COVIDs collaboration videos. That works, right? It's good. So yeah, there you go. So anyway, you've probably all seen these before, right? So it's like kind of like this, right? And then everyone playing their instruments or singing or doing whatever. So there's always these very creative ways that artists, well, musicians specifically in this case, but will come up and try to invent something new, right? Something that will be, or it's not necessarily new, I guess, but it's just the only way to make music right now. And musicians are really kind of, you know, I want to say starving, but that sounds really typical. So musicians are starving to play some music together, right? To perform together. So so because of that kind of thing, I think this has actually led to a lot of other neat opportunities for musicians as well. I'm doing a little cul-de-sac concert with my piano trio in a couple weeks. With my string quartet, we have a parking lot concert that we're doing in Langley, and we're going to start like some mini series, which are like 45-minute at most, so like half hour to 45-minute concerts for 45 people, and just kind of one after the other. So maybe like 3 in an afternoon. So that the idea of just like people that really want music, so we'll provide it in the space where they can be all spaced out and maybe standing, so maybe not as comfortable, but for less time they leave, next people come in. So just kind of like just figuring out like logistically, how can we still do music, how can we still make music and still provide and share and all this stuff, with all these different stipulations that we have as well. So yeah,
I
so
love it.
very long answer, sorry.
No, that's a great answer. I know that Brittany was talking about the possibility of you guys going to Elam on a flatbed trailer and performing for Elam for the residents there. And I think those things are wonderful. I want to focus in on this question. I think this is a really important one. There's a ton of conversation right now about economic health, about our physical health. What does music have to offer a world in crisis? Like, what is the role of music right now? How important really is it in the midst of a crisis?
Yeah. The short answer is very. I really do think so. I I'm sure you've all heard certain things, certain quotes, whatever they are, about music speaking more than words and that kind of a thing. There, of course, this crisis is actually different for everyone, right? So for some people, it is awful. If they've lost someone that they love, or if they've gone through some sort of I mean, everyone's gone through some sort of loss because we've all haven't been able to do what we were expecting to do. And hopefully that's, you know, it was a good thing that we were hoping to be doing. Um, so everyone's kind of experienced some sort of loss, and it is true that like music does have that power to kind of reach into your emotions and help you to feel something or express something that, you know, having a conversation with someone might not do. And it also very well might, but you can just kind of, you can, I don't know, go to a different place when you're listening to music. So it depends on your situation, but having something to sort of like allow you to feel something more deeply, I think is very important. And it's really helpful, I think, in the process of healing, if that's something that, you know, someone in need of. Oh, we all are, let's be honest. But just
Mm.
specifically about the pandemic right now. Um, in other cases, I would say, you know, a lot of people are just kind of stuck at home, and it's not that they're, you know, they're not necessarily experiencing any significant loss necessarily, or maybe I'm talking more about, you know, students, younger kids, or maybe people who just you know, they just have more free time now all of a sudden, right? So in that regard, I would say music is awesome again, because you know, if you're able to play an instrument, that's just a really good use of time. You're doing something that's creative. You're doing something that um, that's productive, right? And I think all that, like, it's something that, you know, it's you can find a way to, again, sort of create beauty despite everything else that's going on. And I think that's important as a someone who's learning an instrument, as well as someone who's performing an instrument, as well as someone who's just listening to music, right? Um, so, and I think also, like, uh, it's good for music is it helps to bring people together, of course. But I think in a time like this, where everyone is feeling so isolated and so separated from other people, I think having music to share, whether that is kind of just sending someone a link or actually being a part of the same video, right, and doing a collaboration sort of thing. Either way, you build a sense of community that way. Um,
Mhm.
and I think that's really really important, especially for people who are extroverted, or people who just really really want to have that connection with people but can't find it readily, obviously, right now, right, physically. So having that, having music to bring about a sense of community through, you know, just shared experiences, really actually is what it kind of boils down to. And it's just more poignant now, I think, just because uh, and of course this is me as a musician talking, right? So I'm feeling it more than I would say probably most of you. But you know, I feel like I can't wait till I get to perform with someone again, right? Like
Mm.
that feeling of a live performance. And you know, just yeah, it's a thrill. And it's something that, like, obviously I'm not going to take for granted quite as quickly as I would have before as well, right? So that's maybe another positive positive outcome of it, right? um, I think the just, and speaking as a Christian, of course, like I think um, music is worship, right? Any music is worship. So you don't have to be playing, you know, Jesu joy of man desiring to be a Christian when you're a musician, right? So I think playing and making music and sharing music and listening to music, that can be just as worshipful as reading a book, right? That helps you to enjoy language, or you know, looking at a piece of art that helps you to enjoy the visual art, or whatever it is, right? There's all different sort of facets of that. But um, I would say, just for the sake of worship, it's something. It's a little bit, again, like, of a lifeline in this time where it seems like there's a little bit of a drought, right? So
Mhm.
having these things cropping up, and then being able to worship through sharing music together, is a huge thing. Actually, I don't know if anyone else has this or had this experience with our church, but it's interesting because I didn't notice I think it was 2 Sundays that we didn't have music. Is that right? Am I remembering correctly?
Maybe even three, but at least two. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it's it's interesting because I'm kind of surrounded by music all the time, like even now, right? Because there's students, or I'm doing some recordings, or there's always music happening. But then on the Sundays when we go for church, I did sort of, and this is of course, no, like no knock to you, Dave, or Sid or anything. I love, love, love everything about the sermons, and they like that. That was enough. Let's put it that way. It was, but in a way, I always felt like something was a little bit lacking. I didn't know what it was. Like I just kind of was like, yeah, that was a good church service, but because I was, I'm surrounded by music, I'm not necessarily thinking I'm missing music because I have it. But then as soon as we started putting music on our videos for church, it was like, oh, there it is. And for me, that was this moment of like, that's what I was missing. I didn't think about it. I didn't realize it because I had other music elsewhere. But then it made me think like, what about other people who don't, maybe they don't play an instrument, or maybe they don't have that sort of a community of music around them. For them to all of a sudden experience it with music, it just elevates it elevates the worship, right? And it helps it to well, it enhances your worship, right? And so
Mhm.
that was just a very interesting kind of discovery for me, because I hadn't thought about what it was. And then all of a sudden when we had the music, it was like, oh yeah, that's what was missing actually. So and that's just to say, like, music as worship has music can be just another form of worship, whatever it is that you're playing or singing or whatever, listening to. So
Absolutely. I mean, it's very interesting on that same topic how about a month ago when we and Milena, your wife, she put together a worship song that was an isolation collaboration video. And when that was posted as part of our worship service, I had a number of people texting me saying that they were so moved by it. And
hmm,
then, even on Facebook, when we posted it later, I noticed that like our services get a certain amount of views, a few hundred views. And that video, the first video of collaboration worship, got like 4,000 some views. So
yeah,
it's like more than quadruple all of our services. And I think it's speaking into exactly what you're describing, where the power of music, and then also the hunger we had to actually worship together and see faces, relationship, the people we know leading us in worship was so strong that just was the outlet, that first song after like a month.
yeah,
So I think it's exactly what you're describing.
yeah. And it's hard to describe exactly what it is too, right? Because the other elements of the service, and I'm not just giving you lip service, but the other elements were there, and they were awesome, and they were beautiful, and they were meaningful.
I
And
mean, Sid's sermons, they're not bad. They're not bad. But,
it,
I'm just kidding.
that's right, that's right. You have him on mute, don't you?
Yeah, that's right. He's on mute for now. I mean, I want to ask the question, and Milena told me this is a cruel question, so you can give more than one answer. But what are some of your favorite pieces of music, and why?
Yeah. So okay, I'm trying to think of a way to kind of introduce this, because I honestly, like, there's just way too many, right? I think that might go for many people as well, but just there's just way too many in my head. So what I did, I don't know if this works. Can I do a share screen, like screen share on here?
I can try. I can try to make you a host.
Oh, is that how do you have to be? Do you have to be a host to do that?
I think you do.
Okay, so let
I
me.
I don't think you do, Dave. I think you can do it without being the host.
Okay, we'll try it, Ben. Go for it.
So let me just say I pulled up just three different ones just on YouTube just to kind of show, and I'll introduce. I'm actually super happy to see Ingrid here. Hi Ingrid. She's a wonderful pianist, and this piece, that one of the pieces that I'm gonna play just a very small part of it, because if I were to just say to you, Schumann piano quartet, slow move, you'll just be like, that's awesome. But what I'm going to do is I'm play a very small part of it. But I'm so happy that Ingrid's here, because she's the pianist who played this concert with me a while ago. This is a while ago, the first time I played it. And I think it was actually, and my sister Brielle played it as well. And it was one of the last times that I performed with her before she moved back to Ontario. So for me, it's a very emotional piece. Like, it's actually, I can't hear it without sort of like bawling, right? Inside, whether it's outside or inside, whatever it is. So it's just, and obviously the melody is gorgeous, and like the interplay between the violin and the cello, like it's beautiful. But it has that significance to me as well, kind of like marking a time in my life. So there's that one, and then maybe well, I can tell you. the other ones in a second here. See if I can share the screen with you. See if it works. Host disabled participant screen sharing, so I can't do it. Just so you know.
Trying to figure out how to change that, Ben.
Well, if you can't, and maybe while you're doing that, I'll just say there's the two other ones.
I just made you a host. Go for it.
Oh, nice. Okay, thanks. Okay, yeah, thank you.
Just this once.
Just this one. Where is it? I guess screen. Yeah. Okay, we'll try this. I'm on a different laptop than I'm used to. So, okay, so here, and this is, if I play this, is it just going on to your audio?
Yep.
Okay.
Go
perfect.
for it.
Okay, so this is just the first little part. Won't do much. Yeah, that was awesome, Ben. Way to go. Okay, so that's the first one. And sorry, I jumped it there by accident. And then the second one is, let me see, why can't I get all these things up here like in the way? So the second one, there we go, is just another one that I like. I used to play piano a lot. I don't play piano quite as much anymore as I used to. But this is one that I still play and I still love it. And it just kind of has this sense of like, to me. So it has this like, just kind of exhale, comfortable. Everything is kind of in its proper place and life is just kind of good, sort of a feel to it. And I can't get enough of it. So let me just play a little bit of that one as well. You might recognize it. I think CBC uses it for their intros once in a while. Here's this one. So there's that one. Just beautiful. It just rolls along like that for 3 minutes, and it's just like, it clears your head. It's beautiful. And this last one, I'm not trying to be funny by showing this last one, but this is something that probably if you ask my kids, what's your dad's favorite song, they'd probably all say this one because I whistle it all the time, like just around the house. Like it's just whenever I'm anywhere, it's either this one or It's a Hard Knock Life by Annie, and I don't know why I do that one. Really, I don't know why. But this other one, it's the whistling song that the rooster whistles. I don't know if you guys know the cartoon version of Robin Hood. What I think one of the best Disney movies out there, to be honest. And this one, I just like I honestly could whistle it all day long. Like I'm not actually exaggerating in that. I really could. And so I was delighted when I found that there was a 3-hour version loop of this exact piece right here. So you're not going to listen, 10 hours. I'm sorry, 10-hour version. We're not going to listen to 10 hours, and it's very short, but it's just looped over and over. And this is like me every day. So this is what it is here. And then, so there's that. And honestly, like I can whistle that all day long. I think it's the happiest tune ever written. And it just has this like, I don't know, I'm seeing all these themes all of a sudden, like bouncing along, rolling along. Like to me, that's just like, life's good. Anyway, so those are kind of, they're quite different, obviously one from the next, but those are the three that I would say are kind of some of my top favorites. So there's a lot of favorites, but.
Well, that solves which song we're going to get you to play. We had all these really complex pieces we're going to get you to perform, but I think we're just going to get you to do the Robin Hood Rooster whistling song. Jello.
Wouldn't you like that? So yeah, are you actually serious?
Well, the tribe, I've said to people that we can choose that collectively. But what I want to do now, I have some more questions, but I'm going to pull back and give a chance for anyone else to ask a question about a day in the life of Ben Goheen as a cellist, some of the challenges you face, and the joys of being a musician. So just unmute yourself, ask your question, and then we'll reply.
Okay, I have a question. So I remember seeing Yo-Yo Ma perform with the Calgary Philharmonic one time. And so for me, that was one of the best concerts ever because he was so funny and so fabulous and the music was amazing. So for you, on the other side of the orchestra, what's been your favorite concert, piece to play, moment for whatever reason associated with an orchestral sort of experience?
Yeah, that's a great question actually. So okay, um, two, well, okay, three come to mind, and they're all quite different. The first one, I'll say the first one because it's with Yo-Yo Ma as well. Some of you might know this already, some of you might not. I performed actually right next to Yo-Yo Ma about 4 years ago now. I'm losing track of time, but he came in to play a concerto with the VSO, and I was playing for that concert. And usually, what happens is the soloist comes in, and then they sit in the back waiting room, and then when it's like at the intermission, then the rest of the orchestra kind of files back on, and then the soloist comes out. So that's as much as you really see of the soloist, and then they leave first, and then it's kind of like, oh, he's gone. The cellist who was sitting next to me threw his back out during the last rehearsal before the concert, and they didn't have enough time to find a substitute cellist to come in to fill his spot. So they basically just left an empty chair, or they had an empty chair there, and then they took it away because he was gone. So I was sitting kind of by myself, and it was offered to me like, do you want to move up to the next thing and be with the group, or do you want to just be in the back and sit by yourself? I think I kind of thought, oh, I'll just sit in the back. To me, I don't care where I'm sitting in the orchestra. I'm playing it. That doesn't matter to me. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to play in the back. And then we're kind of all just, talking. This is just before the concert was about to begin. Bramwell Tovey is conducting. He went back when he was the conductor. And I was talking to all the cellists. We were just kind of having different conversations about, which person they could have maybe called in to sub at the last second. Oh no, that cellist is out of town this week, so what about this one? Oh no, he's out, he wouldn't be able to. And all of a sudden I realized like they all kind of stopped looking at me, and their eyes just went like this, and they all were looking not at me anymore but past me and to my right. And so I just kind of, you kind of look at everyone, you kind of look from this person, they're all looking at the same place. What are they doing? So I kind of turned around, and then there I saw Yo-Yo Ma kind of walking right out. He's kind of standing right beside me there. And so I made some weird, very embarrassing noise, I'm sure. And I just kind of looked at him like, wow, what's happening? Are you playing? Like, what? It was a very confusing time all of a sudden. And he's like, yeah, I'm just going to play next to you. Is that okay? I'm like, sure, yeah. So the first thing I did was, let's switch spots because, the outside player is usually the better player. So I was like, okay, I'm sitting on the inside for this concert. You're on the outside. And he was like, no. He actually like physically pushed me down back into the chair. He's like, no. Stay on the outside. I haven't played any of this music before, so I'm going to be sight reading. So you're going to have to show me what to do. So I kind of look around, and of course, like all the other cellists, it's that balance of like trying to look poised and like we know what we're doing because we're performing, but also like, did you see? So everyone's kind of like in this kind of like trying to look back, but also trying to be like, we have this under control. We know what's going on, right? Sort of thing. So he actually he said to me, so you just really like literally you have to show me what are we doing. And I hadn't really marked up the music very much because we all had rehearsed it, so I knew what to do. I hadn't marked everything in. So I started showing him different things. I was like, okay, we are doing this repeat, and I was kind of looking and getting flustered and turning the page. Okay, we're not doing this repeat. This page turns really fast, so just try to get back here. So I'm telling him all these things because he's insisting on turning my pages. And then all of a sudden I realized like the whole audience has gone very, very quiet because it was like we were supposed to start already. And so the lights were kind of just before they dimmed, they were just kind of waiting. And like Toby was up there with his baton, just kind of waiting. And I realized like at one point I was talking kind of out loud, like, because I was trying to tell him what to do. And then I realized I shouldn't really talk anymore. So I kind of looked up, I just kind of smiled, and then he was like, "Oh, just take your time, right, bro? So just take your time, you know." And so then, of course, you know, Yo-Yo had a few more questions for me about, well, what about this movement, and what are we doing here, and are you gonna do a down bow here? So we talked it through for about 3 more minutes, just like trying to just go really fast, like, okay, this is what we're doing. And it was honestly that moment was just such a, like, I just felt like I was in another realm looking down at myself. I was, this is crazy. And as we were playing, so whatever, it all started, we got playing, and it was it was a whole Dvorak concert. And if you know music, he's just a really fun composer. And the whole thing was very cello centric, actually. Like it was made, like a lot of the pieces that were chosen were for the cello, because it was featuring Yo-Yo Ma on the second half, of course, right? So it was just this like just crazy, like surreal moment. And I remember, like, as I'm playing, I'm just like, who am I? What am I doing here? This is nuts. And I kind of look over at him, and he's just like smiling away, you know, making a few little mistakes here and there. And every once in a while, he'd be like, "Oh, sorry, Ben. Sorry, Ben." Like, seriously, don't apologize. You play like a D sharp instead of a C natural, it'll still sound good. I don't even care what you're doing. Just keep going. And I remember just looking over him while we're playing like these juicy big chords, like not hard to play, but sounding really good and just being really fun to play. And him having this huge beaming smile on his face, and thinking like, yeah, this is amazing. This is like top music making right here, and it's just like more fun than ever. So that for me was a very big moment. And of course, you know, like as soon as I was done, I'm like, just before I had, or no, I don't know if I had a cell phone or not. Maybe I didn't tell Milena. So I got home, and then Milena was like, "So how was your evening?" And she had heard from someone else who had gone to the concert. "Did you know that your husband was sitting next to Yo-Yo Ma?" So anyway, that would be one of the top highlights for sure. There's another one that's pretty cool, and that is the piece that I just played for you, the first one, the most serious one, the Schumann, the beautiful one. At the very end, there's a B flat major chord that gets held for quite a while, and in the part for the cello, it says, "You're welcome to detune your C string." So tune your C string down to a B flat, so a whole tone lower, just for this last bit where you can sort of drone on a B flat for, I don't know, 20, or I don't know, maybe let's say it's for 45 seconds or something like that. And then what you have to do is, as soon as you're done with that movement, which is very slow, very kind of like slowly taper it off, quickly crank it back up to a C and try to see if it's in tune, and then get ready to start the next movement, which is really fast. So it's nuts. It's crazy. It's not that, I don't think most people do that, to be honest, because it doesn't really make sense musically to wait before the last movement, and there's not enough time. I decided I'm not going to do it because there's too much risk involved, right? What if my C goes out of tune, and I'm not going to do it. So this is Ingrid. This is not when we performed. This is the last time, which was about 2 years ago now. And we were playing in a place called Place des Arts, and it's up in Coquitlam there. And if you ever go there, and if you're musical, listen for the fan. There's a fan in there where we performed. We were playing, and during the rehearsal, it kind of came on, and it was really annoying. We were just like, what is that sound? It's just like, and it was like just a really annoying sound. We were like, I hope that thing goes off before we perform. Like, that's awful. We can't have that going while we're performing. So, and it did, you know, kind of it was a little bit intermittent. It just kind of came on and came off, and so we just kind of like got used to it, I guess. So we're playing the thing, the Schumann. It's beautiful. Everything's fine. Nothing's happening. The stupid fan's not coming on. It's great. All of a sudden, we get to this beautiful movement where we've just pretty much finished the whole thing. I get ready to play my drone on a B flat, which is the higher one, because I'm not including that low one. That should be my C string if I were to detune it. So I play my B flat, and all of a sudden, like almost out of nowhere, it was just this like, and it was a B flat. It was a B flat. It was exactly the note that I needed, that I couldn't hit because it was too, like, I couldn't detune in time. It was exactly that pitch. And it wasn't even like a little bit flat or a little bit sharp. It was exactly the pitch that I needed. So as we were doing it, I remember I just like, I got these goosebumps. I have them right now because I'm just remembering. I had these goosebumps all over. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, does everyone else feel that? And we're all just kind of looking at each other like wide-eyed, like, can you believe that this is happening? And then like, and almost like clockwork, it just, we're done, and the fan just kind of turned off. And it was like, wow, well, thank you, fan. That's like our biggest fan tonight. So we were just like, that was like just another moment of like, oh my goodness, could it honestly be better than that, right? Like, we could have been in a different movement, playing a totally different pitch, and that B flat came on and ruined everything. But instead, it heightened it and made it just this gorgeous, like, it just added this huge harumph on the bottom, which we needed, you know, for obvious reasons. So anyway, that would be the second that just comes to mind. And there was one other one. I think this one was, it was with Milana, and I think also with another violinist that I play with quite regularly, Alana. I only play with violinists who have their names ending with Anna. And we were playing on some yacht or something out in English Bay, and it was some, you know, hoity-toity sort of a posh, I don't even know if it was a wedding or a reception, something. We were on the top floor, and on the lower level they had some drinks or whatever, and then one lower level lower than that, they had a dance going on. And after a while, the music just got so loud, and it was so much that we were just like, okay, we got to stop playing. This is not good. Like, we can't compete with that. There's no way. And then the wedding coordinator came up, as wedding coordinators do. Keep playing, please, keep playing. Like, okay, sure, we're hired, why not, right? So we kept playing, and then there was, we just decided that we would just play with whatever beat there was from below. And so if you know music, this is maybe not the best story to end on, because if you know music, it's great. If you don't, you'll be like, oh, that's interesting. But there's a Brandenburg concerto, so it's da da dum ba 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 da dum bum 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 bum. So if you know that one, it's like really like kind of boisterous and bouncy, and there's my theme of the day, bouncy. And we just basically, we took the beat from down below, which is a, and we just went with that and played along. And honestly, I remember that just being so fun. Like, it was just so fun. It was like, honestly, we kept looping the same song over because no one was listening. But it was just one of those, like, you know, moments of like, really, are we getting paid for this? This is just like so much fun. Like, we're just jamming at this point, right? Like, anyway, just kind of like bringing those two different worlds together, right? Anyway, sorry, I'm taking a long time to answer. Those would be the top two that come to mind right away. So thank you. That's good. That's a good question.
Thanks, Ben. I feel as though the way you felt about playing with Yo-Yo Ma was the way I first felt when I first played with you, being completely like, oh my goodness, this guy plays in the orchestra and I'm just a crappy piano player.
No. No way. No way. No.
Any other questions?
I have a question. How can we support musicians in a time like this when there aren't the gigs that there usually are?
Yeah, I don't know. That's an awkward question. Thanks for that, Brittany. I'm not sure exactly how to answer that. Because there's definitely there's a real problem, right? That musicians are not getting paid right now, and there's not really a way for musicians to make money. Well, I shouldn't say there's not a way, because there's always going to be a way, but because this is sort of unprecedented and no one knows exactly how it's working and how long it's going to be, there's kind of the question too of how much do you want to invest in trying to carve out your own path before you realize, oh, things are going to be back to normal anyways in a couple months. So really, I just wasted the last couple months working on this project. And so there's a lot of things going on with that. I mean, and to be honest, I don't know if most musicians would want to just kind of get thrown money, you know, like, oh, here's money just because you're a musician, right? So it's kind of that awkward sort of balance of like, you know, if you love music and you want to support music, because, you know, if you don't love it, then don't worry about supporting it. But if you love it and you believe that it's actually that important and it's something that you want to do, like, we have to find ways to make that possible. Do you know what I mean? Like, musicians need to have a voice. We need to be able to play, for lack of a better word, we need to be able to play, and we need a platform to play. Platform being one of those funny little words that we all use way too regularly now. But and that platform is not Zoom, by the way. So I think we have to find a way for musicians to be able to play, and for people who are actually interested in music and believe that it's a worthwhile thing, to be able to hear about events, whatever they are. And if they're able to support, if they're able to be there, and they're able to pay for some sort of admission, whatever, that's kind of the most like fair way that I can see that working, right? Which is the normal model that we're used to, right? You put on a concert because it's something that's valuable. You enjoy a concert because it's something you value, and everybody's kind of happy because you all get to experience what you enjoy. So it's good. But obviously, yeah, with this time is what makes it difficult, right? So yeah, I mean, I really don't know how to answer the question. If things kind of keep progressing as they are, you know, musicians will be creative like that. You know, I think we're a creative bunch, right? That's kind of what we do a little bit. We create, or we at least try to come up with something that's like somewhat original, right? Like the 9-note scale. You know, I don't know. But so it's the type of thing where, like, if you hear about some event that's going on, yeah, maybe try to support it. If you're able to go to something, you know, see if you can make an effort to go. But I also understand there's like risks involved too, right? If people are feeling that they really can't be anywhere close to other people, even, you know, the 6 feet apart thing, if people are more nervous about that, I get that too. So I'm not really answering your question. I'm just sort of dancing around it, just because I don't really know. Like, practically speaking, I don't really know. Like, the things that I mentioned just at the beginning were like cul-de-sac concert type thing, and then these parking lot concerts, and then these mini concerts. Like, those are all just kind of like ideas that I had, and I'm sure other musicians have had them as well. But just in terms of like, I really want to perform. I want to be doing something. Not even like about the money. Like, to me, it's not like, you know, we need to make money. What can we do? It's, I'm a musician. I want to do music. Like, you know, that's my starting point. Like, God's gifted me with music. I want to be able to do that. So I'm trying to find a way to do that. And so these are some ways. And I think, you know, yeah, you know, if there are people out there who have the means to support events like that, great. That's awesome. But beyond that, I'm not expecting. Yeah, I'm not expecting.
I would have used I was thinking of the word support more broadly than just money. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and in terms of just like, okay, then in that case, I would say just when musicians want to play music, what's the point, right? The point is to be able to share it. So then if people are interested in supporting musicians, then just being there to listen to the music, that's a gift, right? The music, for the musicians to be able to share, that's a gift. For people to be able to listen to it and enjoy it, that's a gift back to the musician. So it's like a two-way street that fulfills both parties, you know, I guess needs, or whatever you want to call it, right? So I think, but then of course, you know, yeah, there's more you can unpack with that. But I think as long as people are willing to listen, and people are looking for opportunities to listen, then that's something, right? Then that's at least one step towards the right direction, or in the right direction. So
One more question, then we're going to get Ben to play.
Ben, can I post the link for the Somerset Trio that you sent to us? The thing that you just made together. Can I put that link on the chat?
Oh, like this chat now?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think a lot of you may have gotten it, but I don't know. Yeah, sure.
There it is.
Yeah, so this is the link that my dad is just sending around. This is just something my piano trio put together last week at some point. Yeah, it's just something, because we're all in the same boat, right? All musicians are just really kind of craving this, like, I want to be able to perform. I want to be able to kind of, you know, share something with someone. And so this was just an idea that I had, just which, again, a ton of musicians are doing this right now, but just to kind of get this particular piece out there, because I love the message of it, and I think it's just a beautiful piece that works well and kind of speaks to this time a little bit for many people. So a lot of you, I think, have already seen it, but by the way, if you would like to still comment on it, you can. And I say that, I just have to be honest about this. I'm not out to like get people's comments. I really don't care. I couldn't care less how many views, how many comments, that kind of thing does not matter to me. If you look me up, you won't even be able to find me on the internet probably. I'm not on any social media stuff. But what I do what I do love and what I do think is really good about commenting is that it builds a sort of sense of community. And like, especially if people know people who are there, it does sort of, it's that whole shared experience idea where, oh, I listened to this. Oh, so did I. Oh, I know that person. Oh, that's cool. We shared that experience together. Even though, so I'm just saying, if you, sorry, I'm starting too many sentences. We started with that one disabled because apparently there was some spam thing that happened within the first minute of the person posting it. But then they found a way, see, I'm not involved in the tech part of it, but they found a way to take that off so that you still can comment now, and it just takes approval or something. So if you want to comment for the purpose of building community, please do so. I'm not asking you to go on there and say, oh, Ben's the best cellist ever. Just so you know, that's my motivation. It's not for numbers. So
Ben, you couldn't self-promote on your life. We understand. Hey, speaking of chats and comments, Teresa Mayhew just wrote it on the comments that she would like to hear about your journey into the sourdough bread making cult.
Okay. So sure. It's not as interesting as probably many of you might think, or I don't know, maybe you don't think it's interesting at all. We went to some good friends' house on sometime in January. So I've just been doing it since January, not that long. But pre-pandemic, that's what's important for everyone to note. So we went there. We just had a great time. They're great people. We really like them, and it was like it was just such a rich evening in every way. Like, just we had really good conversation. The kids were really playing really well together, and it was just a very, very rich time for everyone. And it was one of those moments of like, wow, this is pretty unique, where all of us are really connecting with all of you, these two families. And some of you might know them. It's the Ransoms, so Andrew and Kim. So anyway, so Andrew, he's a good friend of mine, and at the end of the night, so they made some sourdough for us to have, and then at the end of the night, they sent us home with one, and it was one of those, like, just such a kind gesture, and it was such a unexpected treat at the end of like such a nice, beautiful evening. Anyways, as it was like, wow, this is actually like this is better than perfect. Like, this is amazing. Thank you guys so much. And then so it was pretty soon after that I asked him for the starter so I could get started on my own. And then we just kind of followed suit. Like, honestly, what they did, I've just started doing too. So when I make a loaf for our family or whatever, I'll make 2 loaves and then I'll bring one to someone else. It started with just like neighbors. So it was just people in our neighborhood, basically just kind of going to their doors. And it was the perfect excuse and the perfect way to be social in this time, right? So it's like I kind of set the thing down on their doorstep, ring the doorbell, step back 5 steps, they come to the door, we talk for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, and then I leave, and they'd have something nice to enjoy. So that was my sort of ushering into this cult, so to speak. So
Well, I know many people in our church have been blessed by the sourdough, so keep it up.
Yeah, no problem. I love it.
All right, Ben, a lot of people have been hoping that you would play your cello. And I want to ask, do you have a piece prepared, or are we allowed just to call out something that we might be able to get you to play?
Oh, like as in like if I have like okay, you can, I guess you could. Like I did sort of think, oh, I'll just play like a movement of a Bach thing, but
that sounds great.
If you guys have something, I don't know.
Valerie wants the Jaws theme. I think we're going to go with the Bach.
I only know the first 2 notes. You know what?
The fan will take care of the rest.
That's right. Yeah, I can do that one anyways. Okay, this is actually kind of funny. I don't know how this is going to sound on your end. Is that fine? Does it sound like super distorted? Is it okay?
We'll worry about that. Don't worry.
All right. It's kind of hard to hold down the space bar while clapping.
Ben, we want to spend a couple minutes praying for you and for musicians. And we're wondering if there's anything else that you wanted to say on behalf of musicians, or even, on your own behalf, before we do that. Sort of closing thought for us that you'd like to share.
Yeah, I didn't prepare anything profound to say at the close of this, but yeah, I guess the main thing I would say is just thank you for caring enough to be here and to listen in. Hopefully it wasn't too too boring or too out of your own world, but maybe in a good way it was. So yeah, thank you for just sharing this time. I do appreciate it. I think and I would actually say, like, on behalf of all the musicians I know, like, thank you for listening to music. Thanks for being ears when what we want to do is share what we have to offer. So yeah, we really appreciate that. So thank you.
One of the questions that I was going to ask you, and I didn't, because you answered it throughout your sharing, was just the way in which faith impacts and shapes your work. And I was struck by how you talked about the desire to make something beautiful, the desire to use your gifts to help others and to not be preoccupied with income. And it was just a really interesting way in which your faith is just part of the tapestry of your work in very ordinary ways. I think that's what we desire to see in everyone in their vocation, whatever it is. So thanks for sharing that throughout the evening.
Yeah.
So let me pray for you, Ben. Let's pray. Father, we thank you so much for Ben and for Milana and for their kids, and that you brought them to our church. Lord, we thank you for the way he uses his gifts, not just in our church, but in our city, and the way he blesses people with making beautiful music. We thank you for his humility, his desire to enrich lives. And Lord, we ask that you would be with him and all musicians and artists in this season of uncertainty. We pray for your provision, and we pray that you would give hope, especially to those who are really struggling. And we pray for creative ways to support musicians and artists in our lives and in our city. And we ask that you would give them increased creativity and also the ability to keep making beautiful music that sustains and strengthens and blesses people, especially in this time of pandemic. Lord, we thank you for this time, the gift of technology that connects us, and for the way we get to hear beautiful music this evening. Bless us in your name, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
One last comment for everybody. Next week, I'm going to do another All of Life interview with some teachers in our congregation in different spaces, homeschooling, and teachers who are public school teachers and other teachers who are now teaching their own kids. It's sort of a forum. If you don't know this, we have an unbelievable number of teachers in our church. And so you're welcome to join that conversation. And we look forward to having more dialogue about the world of education in the time of pandemic. But that's next Thursday at 7:30 p.m. You'll hear more about that. But again, thank you, Ben, and I hope you all have a wonderful night.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming out.